Hey guys, and welcome back. So, like I mentioned in the intro of this little playlist, the one thing that I find that a lot of people really overlook is just the actual progression of the 12-bar blues. The 12-bar progression is as follows, and this might be just a refresher for you, but I want to make sure that we understand it so that going forward, we know what's going on in our environment when we're playing. So, we have 4 measures of the 1 chord. Second line down, we have 2 measures of the 4 chord, followed by another 2 measures of the 1 chord. The bottom line, which is very important, we call that the turnaround. The turnaround goes 5, 4, 1, 5. And there's different iterations of this. A lot of players will play different chords over that, but on a very basic level, that's pretty much what's going on in the turnaround. The 12-bar blues is obviously 12 bars long that include the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord of a given key. So if we were in the key of A, and we'll stay in the key of A, the 1 chord would be A, the 4 chord would be D, so A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5 chord would be E, D, E, gives us our 5 chord. Also, with that being said, we have 2 different tonalities that we'll work with inside of a blues. One will be major, and the other one will be minor. The reason why this is important to know when you're soloing is because if you're soloing in a major tonality blues, you are open to use both the minor pentatonic scale, or what we call the blues scale, or major pentatonic. What I'll do next is I'll show you examples of the 2 different tonalities. Here's a major blues. I'm going to use some dominant 7 chords and just some triads. So here's a blues in A. If you guys like what you see so far, make sure to check out my blues course. I left the link in the description below. Make sure to check it out. Now that's just an example of a major blues. You'll also find different feels. And by feels, I mean different rhythm patterns. For instance, a rock feel or a swing feel. Sometimes you'll come across Latin, and sometimes you'll come across funk. And it's really important to know the rhythmic context that you're dealing with too. So for instance, here's a straight blues, like a rock blues. From the 4 chord, D. Up to the 5. So you'll notice that it follows the exact same form, but just with a different rhythmic pattern and maybe some different chords. Let's move on to a minor tonality. So I'll use exclusively minor chords with the exception of the 5 chord. The 5 chord, I'm going to play a dominant 7 chord. As a whole, when I played the major progression, it sounds a little bit more happy, a little bit more uplifting, as when I played the minor blues, it's definitely a little bit more sad. While we're soloing, it's important to know where we are in the form because, like I said, the turnaround is a really important piece of the puzzle when we're talking about the progression. The turnaround literally does exactly what it's supposed to do. It turns us around and brings us back to the beginning of the form. Think of it this way. If I just repeated the 1 chord and the 4 chord back and forth between each other, I'll just skip the turnaround here. Kind of feels like we're going around in a circle. Like there's no tension or resolution really. But if we throw the turnaround in there, especially right there over that 5 chord, gives us a huge turnaround. Now, going back to the soloing, why is this important over our soloing? The 1 chord and the 4 chord are pretty, stable. So with that being said, we can probably play some stable licks over there, nothing too flashy, or it'll stand out pretty heavily in a way that might be a little abrasive. Now, when we get to the turnaround, what you're going to play over that turnaround is very, very important, because just like the harmony does, we want our melody or our solo to bring us back to the top of the form. They're going to want to work together. And that is why the form is so important. Stay tuned for the next video. It's going to be just as important as this one.